People think overthinking is just thinking too much, but that's not what it really is. Overthinking is a silent psychological prison where the mind slowly turns against itself. It's the endless replaying of conversations that already ended, the constant fear of things that haven't even happened yet, the exhausting habit of searching for hidden meanings behind every text, every facial expression, every silence, every delay, every mistake. And the terrifying part is, most people don't even realize their own mind is destroying them from the inside, while they continue calling it being careful or being aware. Tonight, you're going to understand one of the darkest truths about human psychology, why overthinking destroys your mind. Because once you understand the hidden psychology behind anxiety, fear, emotional trauma, self-doubt, insecurity, perfectionism, and mental exhaustion, you will never look at your thoughts the same way again. Think about how dangerous the human mind really is. Your brain can create fear without danger, pain without injury, stress without movement, sadness without reality. A single thought can completely change your emotional state within seconds. One memory can ruin an entire night. One imagined scenario can create anxiety so intense your body reacts as if the event is actually happening. Your heart races, your stomach tightens, your chest feels heavy, your breathing changes. And yet, nothing physically happened. That's how powerful the human mind truly is. Overthinking begins quietly. At first, it feels harmless. You replay a conversation wondering if you said something wrong. You analyze someone's behavior trying to understand what they meant. You imagine future outcomes to protect yourself from disappointment. But slowly, the brain becomes addicted to mental analysis. Every situation becomes a puzzle. Every interaction becomes suspicious. Every silence feels personal. And eventually, the mind stops being a tool you control and becomes a machine controlling you. Psychologists explain that the human brain is naturally designed to detect threats. Thousands of years ago, survival depended on anticipating danger. Our ancestors survived because they constantly scanned for threats in the environment. But in modern life, physical danger decreased while psychological stress increased. The brain never evolved to handle nonstop emotional stimulation, social pressure, comparison, uncertainty, and digital overload. So instead of scanning for predators in the wild, the modern mind scans for emotional threats. Rejection, failure, embarrassment, abandonment, judgment, loss. And because the brain treats emotional pain similarly to physical pain, overthinking becomes a constant survival response. This is why anxious thoughts feel impossible to ignore. Your brain believes it's protecting you. Overthinking creates the illusion of control. The mind convinces itself that if it analyzes enough possibilities, enough outcomes, enough details, it can prevent pain before it happens. But the terrifying reality is that overthinking rarely solves problems. It multiplies them. The more the mind searches for certainty, the more uncertainty it discovers. And because life itself is unpredictable, the overthinking brain becomes trapped chasing impossible emotional security. One of the darkest truths about overthinking is that it slowly disconnects you from reality. Instead of experiencing life directly, you begin experiencing life through mental interpretation. You stop listening to people and start analyzing them. You stop enjoying moments and start predicting endings. You stop trusting emotions and start questioning every feeling. The mind becomes so focused on imagined futures that it forgets how to live in the present entirely. This creates mental exhaustion most people don't even understand. The brain consumes enormous energy processing repetitive thoughts. Overthinkers are often physically tired despite doing very little externally because their nervous system is constantly active internally. The mind never rests. Even at night, thoughts continue running endlessly. Conversations replay. Regrets resurface. Future fears multiply. The body sleeps while the brain remains emotionally awake. And this is where overthinking becomes truly dangerous. Chronic overthinking slowly rewires the nervous system. Stress hormones like cortisol remain elevated for long periods. Anxiety becomes normalized. The body adapts to constant emotional tension until calmness itself starts feeling unfamiliar. Peace feels suspicious. Silence feels uncomfortable. The mind becomes addicted to stimulation because emotional chaos became psychologically normal. This explains why some people overthink even when life is going well. Their brain no longer needs actual problems to create anxiety. It creates imagined problems automatically. If everything feels peaceful, the mind searches for hidden danger anyway. What if something goes wrong? What if they secretly changed? What if I fail later? What if this happiness disappears? The brain becomes trapped in defensive anticipation. Childhood psychology plays a massive role in this. Many overthinkers developed hyperawareness during emotionally unstable environments growing up. A child raised around unpredictable anger, criticism, emotional inconsistency, manipulation, or neglect often learns to analyze everything for emotional survival. They become highly sensitive to mood changes, tone shifts, facial expressions, and behavioral patterns because predicting emotional danger became necessary during childhood. The terrifying part is that these survival habits continue into adulthood even when danger no longer exists. This is why many overthinkers are emotionally exhausted around relationships. They analyze replies, read between lines, notice small changes in energy, fear abandonment constantly, overanalyze silence. And because their nervous system expects emotional instability, they struggle trusting peace. Healthy relationships can even feel emotionally unfamiliar because chaos became psychologically normal long ago. Overthinking also destroys confidence slowly. Every decision becomes mentally exhausting because the brain fears making mistakes. Simple choices become overwhelming. The mind imagines worst-case scenarios repeatedly. Fear of failure increases. Fear of judgment increases. Fear of regret increases. And eventually, overthinking creates paralysis. People stop taking risks not because they lack ability, but because their mind has convinced them disaster hides behind every possibility. This is one reason intelligent people often suffer deeply from overthinking. Intelligence increases awareness, but awareness without emotional control becomes destructive. Highly analytical individuals can mentally simulate endless future possibilities. They see consequences others miss. They notice patterns others ignore. But without emotional balance, this heightened awareness becomes mental torture. The brain never stops calculating outcomes. Social media has amplified overthinking to terrifying levels. Humans were never psychologically designed to compare themselves to millions of people daily. Modern life constantly exposes individuals to curated perfection. Better lifestyles, better bodies, better relationships, better achievements, better success. The brain begins comparing constantly, creating endless self-doubt. Am I behind? Am I attractive enough? Am I successful enough? Am I wasting my life? Comparison fuels overthinking because the mind becomes obsessed with perceived inadequacy. Another dangerous aspect of overthinking is emotional personalization. Overthinkers often assume everything relates to them personally. Someone acts distant, they blame themselves. Someone replies late, they assume they did something wrong. Someone changes mood, they immediately search for personal responsibility. The brain becomes trapped in self-blame because uncertainty feels unbearable. But the reality is that many things have nothing to do with you at all. People fight internal battles silently. They carry stress, trauma, exhaustion, insecurity, emotional confusion, and hidden pain unrelated to your existence. Yet the overthinking mind constantly searches for personal fault because blame feels psychologically easier than uncertainty. Perfectionism also feeds overthinking intensely. Many overthinkers secretly believe mistakes make them unworthy. They fear embarrassment deeply because their self-worth became tied to performance, approval, or validation. This creates endless mental pressure. Every conversation must be perfect. Every decision must be correct. Every opportunity must succeed. And because perfection is impossible, the mind remains trapped in constant anxiety. There's also the terrifying psychology of regret. Overthinkers become emotionally addicted to replaying the past, searching for different outcomes. What if I said this instead? What if I never trusted them? What if I started earlier? What if I ruined everything? But the brain confuses reflection with control. Revisiting painful memories endlessly creates the illusion that the past can somehow be changed. It cannot. Overthinking also destroys emotional presence. People physically exist in moments while mentally living somewhere else entirely. During conversations, their mind analyzes reactions. During peaceful experiences, their mind predicts future loss. During happiness, their mind fears pain arriving later. The result is psychological disconnection from life itself. One of the darkest truths about overthinking is that it can quietly destroy relationships. Anxiety changes behavior. People become emotionally needy, defensive, suspicious, distant, or overly dependent without realizing it. Fear of losing someone creates behaviors that slowly push others away. Constant reassurance seeking becomes emotionally exhausting for relationships. The more someone overthinks love, the harder genuine connection becomes. And unfortunately, overthinking creates loneliness because the mind becomes emotionally noisy. True connection requires presence, vulnerability, calmness, and trust. But an overactive mind struggles allowing emotional safety fully. The brain constantly searches for hidden threats beneath affection. Another terrifying reality is that overthinking can distort identity itself. People become so attached to anxious thoughts that they start believing the thoughts define reality. I'm weak. I'm broken. Nobody truly cares. Something bad will happen. I'll never be enough. Repeated thoughts become internal beliefs. And once beliefs form, the brain begins filtering reality through them. This is how overthinking slowly changes perception. The mind starts noticing evidence supporting fear while ignoring evidence supporting peace. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. The brain selectively focuses on information reinforcing existing beliefs. An anxious person notices rejection more than acceptance, criticism more than compliments, failure more than progress. The mind becomes emotionally programmed toward negativity. Overthinking also destroys sleep. At night, distractions disappear. Silence exposes unresolved fears. The brain begins replaying unresolved conversations, embarrassing moments, future worries, regrets, insecurities, and imagined disasters. Many people appear calm externally while privately fighting mental wars every night alone. There's also a disturbing connection between overthinking and emotional trauma. Trauma teaches the nervous system that unpredictability is dangerous. This creates hypervigilance, a constant state of emotional alertness. Overthinkers often struggle relaxing because relaxation feels psychologically unsafe. Their body learned that danger can appear unexpectedly, so the mind stays alert constantly. This creates emotional exhaustion. Most people hide behind smiles. One of the saddest parts of overthinking is how invisible it is. People see someone quiet, distant, serious, or reserved without realizing their mind is carrying thousands of exhausting thoughts internally. Some individuals spend years silently battling their own mind while appearing completely functional externally. And here's something most people never realize. Overthinking often comes from caring deeply. Sensitive people overthink because emotions affect them intensely. They replay situations because they genuinely value connection, meaning, love, and emotional safety. But without boundaries and emotional regulation, sensitivity transforms into suffering. The modern world makes this even worse. Constant notifications, endless information, news cycles, social comparison, pressure to succeed, fear of missing out, economic stress, loneliness, emotional instability. All of it overstimulates the nervous system continuously. The human brain never gets true silence anymore. This is why mental peace became rare. Another dangerous aspect of overthinking is self-sabotage. Fear of pain causes people to avoid opportunities entirely. They avoid relationships, fearing heartbreak. Avoid goals, fearing failure. Avoid vulnerability, fearing rejection. Avoid speaking honestly, fearing judgment. But avoiding pain also prevents growth, connection, confidence, and healing. The overthinking mind believes avoidance creates safety, but often it only creates loneliness. And perhaps the most painful truth about overthinking is this: the mind often creates suffering long before reality ever does. People ruin their own happiness imagining endings before beginnings fully happen. They mentally experience heartbreak before relationships even fail. They experience failure before trying. They experience rejection before speaking. The body reacts emotionally to imagined scenarios as if they are already real. This is why overthinking can become emotionally addictive. The brain becomes dependent on mental stimulation. Some people become so used to emotional tension that calmness feels empty. They unconsciously create worry because their nervous system became attached to anxiety itself. But not all overthinking is permanent. The human brain is powerful, but it can also heal. Neuroscience shows that repeated emotional habits can change through awareness, emotional regulation, mindfulness, healthier environments, therapy, boundaries, and nervous system recovery. Thoughts are powerful, but they are not absolute truth. One of the strongest psychological skills a human being can develop is observing thoughts without obeying them immediately. Just because the mind imagines disaster does not mean disaster is real. Just because fear exists does not mean danger exists. Just because anxiety feels convincing does not mean the thoughts are accurate. Emotionally intelligent people eventually understand something life-changing. Peace does not come from controlling every possible outcome. Peace comes from accepting uncertainty without emotionally collapsing. And that realization changes everything. You stop trying to predict every emotional shift. You stop analyzing every silence. You stop searching for hidden meaning behind every interaction. You stop trying to mentally control the future. Because eventually you realize the mind can create endless fear no matter how much certainty you chase. Real healing begins when the nervous system finally understands it no longer needs constant survival mode. And maybe the most important thing to understand is this: your thoughts are not always your enemy, but they are not always reality either. The human mind is capable of incredible creativity, intelligence, imagination, and emotional depth. But without emotional discipline, that same mind can become the source of endless suffering. Because the truth is, overthinking doesn't just destroy peace. It steals presence. It steals sleep. It steals confidence. It steals relationships. It steals opportunities. It steals joy from moments before they even fully exist. And once you truly understand the psychology behind overthinking, you stop seeing it as intelligence alone. You begin seeing it as an exhausted mind desperately trying to protect a wounded nervous system from pain it fears experiencing again.